this story is about serendipity regarding Burning Man. And it was back in the years I was going to Burning Man frequently. And every year I was thinking, what shall I wear? Because it's a survival situation. It's a performance art survival situation where most people make it through, but how comfortable you are has a wide range. And I'm thinking, like, I want to design a garment that's essentially shelter. And what I saw essentially was a big wool blanket with a hood on it that would keep you shaded all day long and the air circulating all around you. And at night, it would be warm enough you could wrap around yourself and stay warm. It'd be heavy wool, like felted wool. And but wool is itchy, right? So if it's going to be touching you, you want it to be lined with something soft, like satin or silk, or some soft material that you could just put your head on and go to sleep if you wanted. And then you'd have to be able to hold it. Like if it's on your shoulders, it's going to try to fall off. So you need to pin it together somehow. So I was imagining this knotted rope work, like this. I think it's called a frog. You knot a frog and you can pass it through a loop and hold it together at your breast so that it stays on. And a cloak would naturally want to fall off your shoulders, so you could wear it off your shoulders if you wanted. But if you wanted to stay on your shoulders, you'd have to be able to pass your hands through the hem, through the front edge, so you could just hold it closed. So I saw these slits in it that my hands would go through, and it would be a wearable garment, wearable shelter, wearable bedding, wearable shade. And so I finally got the design that I wanted, and I was able to see it really clearly in my mind's eye, and decided, okay, this is it. I get to sew a cloak for Burning Man, and I'll bring it with me next year. And so I was really excited about this design and this decision. So I went home and I told my mom about this. I want to sew a cloak for Burning Man. She says, oh, don't bother sewing a cloak. I've got a cloak. I was going to give it to my neighbor. We were talking 2 days ago, and I said I'd show her the cloak. And I said, oh, thanks, Mom. That's great. But, this is a specialty garment that's designed for Burning Man. And it's like this big felted wool enveloping cloak that's I'm seeing it as like a dark green, a forest green kind of. And she said, yeah, sure, that's the cloak. And I said, no, because you don't understand. Mine's going to be lined with something soft and bright and cool when it's hot, but soft when it's cold. She said, yeah, mine's lined. And I said, with a hood that keeps the sun off your face? And she said, yeah, lined hood? Of course it's lined hood. And it attaches at the front with a rope, knotted frog. She says, yeah, that's the one. Here, let me go get it. I'll show you. And I'm like, does this cloak have slits in it that you can put your arms through? And she said, sure, yeah. Let me go get it. I'll show you. What? I gotta see this. So she goes to the back of the house and she brings out a really nice green, heavy wool, almost felted kind of big cloak, and it's really big, and it stretches out like a big cloak, and then it's lined with this lovely, soft, satiny material, and it's got a hood. And it's got a frog in the front with yellow rope. And it's got the sleeves for your arms so that you can just wear it comfortably and and it stays open, stays closed. Like if it's cold, you might want to just pull it together. Or if it's really cold, wrap it around you. You can just like wrap it up tight. Or if you're sleepy, you got a place to just like stay covered. And if it's sunny or if it's cold, got a hood. If it's raining, you're going to stay dry. And I was just marveling, like, how did you end up with the very cloak that I designed for over thinking about it for years? And she said, don't you remember making this frog when you were 15 years old? I said, what do you mean? She said, yeah, you were really into knots and rope work, and I was making this cloak for socializing, and I needed a frog. I was going to buy something, and you said you'd make me one. And so I made this decades and decades ago. And this cloak made such an impression on me that the associations with this cloak stayed in my brain, organized as a retrievable file, as a memory. And what I thought was my creation, my design, was actually my retrieving this memory and successfully seeing it again, successfully re-experiencing it again. And it was from me, but it was from my storage. It was a cloak my mother had made that I remembered as being the ideal garment. So this became my Burning Man outfit, and I wore it every year until that chapter seems to have ended. And did a little maintenance over the years, had to replace the lining because that finally shredded out, and I put a metal clasp in here to hold it in the wind. And just a little maintenance over the years to keep it going. And there's something that's really endearing to me about wearing this, because it speaks to me of how we live through time and how creation happens through generations. And I like to wrap myself in that wonder.